So, and of course we are something of a bad boys club in UKIP, aren't we? And girls too. Someone once said that in the political world, UKIP is a bit like Millwall Football Club. Nobody likes us, but we don't care. And I have to say, that's how I feel about it, because I feel that we have been literally betrayed by virtually an entire generation of career politicians in this country. Yes. The only real difference between them is the colour of the rosette they wear on polling day. But you can't tell them apart, can you? On issues of real substance. You know, the left wears the clothes of the right and the right wears the clothes of the left. It's almost some sort of modern transvestite type politics. I mean, it is quite extraordinary that the voters are not given a real opportunity and are not given a real chance. Well, one of the encouraging things is that, goodness me, I'm not high tech, but one of the encouraging things, and people like Rod Trelease here were very much in the vanguard of all of this, one of the encouraging things is that now, through the wonders of computers and modern mobile phones and all the rest of it, that people don't have to listen to the BBC and don't have to believe the editorial line in the Daily Telegraph or the Daily Mail or whatever else it may be, that people are able, if they're willing, to go out there and find out things for themselves. The question of why politicians support the EU. Well, I'm going to try and give a quick answer, I promise, Rollo. But back in 1972, when we had a proper parliament, real parliament, when whether we should join the EEC was being debated in the House of Commons, it took 4.5 months to go through the House of Commons. And in those days, they would debate all day and all night. In a real extensive debate. No guillotines, no 10-minute rules on speaking, a real debate. And the late Roy Jenkins was holding forth in what was a 4-hour speech of why we should join, as he called it, UKIP. I mean, they can never pronounce their R's, can they? Heseltine can't either, it's extraordinary, but never mind. And so Jenkins was holding forth on the wonders of claret and Europe, and what a wonderful thing it would be, and he gave way to an intervention from the backbench Conservative Member of Parliament for a constituency known as Wolverhampton South West, namely one Enoch Powell, whose intervention was, the common market sounds like a very good club for failed ex-chancellors of the Exchequer, and sat down, and within 18 months, Roy Jenkins was President of the European Commission. If you go on from there, you see that Leon Britton lost his job after the Westland crisis, some will remember, and what was the payoff when he went off to become a European Commissioner? And Chris Patten was booted out with the voters of Bath, and he was sent off to the European Commission. And then we had that giant of late 20th century politics, the boyo from the valleys, Mr. Kinnock, who apart from sacking Martha Andreasen, but Mr. Kinnock, who managed to lose the general election to John Major, which if you think about it, took some doing, didn't it? And he was sent off to the Commission, but the best of all, the man sacked for a mortgage fraud for which everyone who in this room would have gone to prison, twice disgraced from the British Cabinet, the most perfect Euro Commissioner ever born, Peter Mandelson. Are you beginning to get my drift? You know, if you're an MP, if you're an MEP that supports the system and happens to suffer the misfortune of losing your job at a general election or a European election, you are guaranteed that within 3 months you'll have a highly paid job working for the European Commission. The European Union is the best thing that has ever happened to the professional, career, political class in its entire history since time began, in my view, because you are guaranteed, if you support it, always to get a job. Now, if I'm turfed out on June the 4th, I'm not so optimistic. Kinnock was appointed by John Major. And I am certain that if Major had lost the election, that Kinnock would have appointed Major. I mean, that's the kind of... Well, I'm being serious about it. That's the kind of old boys club that we've got. Kinnock who of course was fairly calamitous in his first 5 years there, but then in the second 5 years, if you remember, he was the commissioner that was going to clean up the fraud, wasn't he? Yeah. Going to clean up the waste. And then of course we had the vision of Mrs. Kinnock arriving on the scene, who now is so grand, I have to tell you, that when she walks around the European Parliament, I mean, she almost thinks she's royalty. And then we have the son working over there, and the daughter working over there, and the Kinnocks taking about £500,000 a year out of the European Union. And this, the man, who in the 1970s toured the length and breadth of Britain arguing that common market membership would be bad for British democracy and bad for British jobs. It just goes to show, doesn't matter how religious you are or not, the Bible has some very good stories that still hold true today, and sufficient number of pieces of silver tend to do their job, don't they? And I think it's a really wonderful thing that a party like UKIP can have just across the border over here as the #2 candidate and in a highly winnable position in the South East, the European Union's former chief accountant, the lady that was sacked by Neil Kinnock. I think having Marta Andreasen on UKIP's list and being able to say to people, vote UKIP, send Marta to Brussels, and she will tell you where your £40 million a day is going, is a wonderful thing. I really believe that. I think in some ways, when history looks back over this extraordinary period, and I mean that, because it is extraordinary for an island like ours that has fought off all comers over 1,000 years, that has been prepared to make the most incredible sacrifices to defend liberty and freedom and democracy. History will judge those that actually gave it away for their own career advantage. And, you know, history will judge that, in my view, very, very harshly indeed. I asked this question of Václav Klaus the other day. Now here we are. I said how far we've come, didn't I? But the other week, our Independence and Democracy group in the European Parliament, which I've been very proud to be joint president of for the last 5 years, we were for the first and possibly last only ever time invited by a head of state, i.e. President Klaus, to attend Prague Castle for a meeting. I asked him that very question. I said, if Ireland breaks away or Greece breaks away, does it bring the whole house of cards down? And I'll give you Klaus's answer, not mine. What Klaus said is, Nigel, you have to understand that governments have invested so much political capital in getting their countries into the euro that they will never, ever wish to admit defeat, and they'll be prepared to see their people suffer dreadfully before that consequence comes about.
To find out more about who we are and what we stand for, go to the UK Independence Party website at www.ukip.org.